Hi, I'm Emily Libert, and I am a middle school science teacher at the Blair Oaks R2 School District. I'm also currently taking my master's courses online at William Woods University, and one of our courses is EDU 561. During that class, we have to come up with a unit plan. So I have chosen to do my unit plan on a unit for 5th grade science, which is force and motion with simple machines added in. During this unit plan, I have two main questions that I want the kids to dig into. And the first essential question is how do forces affect motion? And the kids are going to learn about different types of forces such as friction and gravity, and also how forces can be balanced and unbalanced and how all of those things relate together. The second question that they're going to get to is how do simple machines make life easier? They will learn about the 6 different types of simple machines, and then in the end they're going to do a project where they create a complex machine of their own to help make some job in their life easier. Good teachers do a good job of teaching from the beginning of class all the way until the end, until the kids leave and move on to their next class. And I feel like I do a pretty good job at my teaching with giving some good engaging lessons and activities for the kids. But I feel like I can improve in capturing their attention at the beginning and digging into background knowledge that they have and getting them engaged right at the get-go. So I have chosen for this class to use the Robert Gagney's 9 Events of Instruction as my instructional design model that I based my lesson plans on for this unit. I chose that one because Robert Gagney does a great job of planning out his design so that the teacher spends time on all parts of the lesson, not just the meat of it, the main part of it, where I feel like I do a good job. I know I need work at the beginning and I need work at the ending to make sure that kids retain everything that they learned. So Robert Gagney has 9 steps that he came up with that use many different aspects to keep the kids engaged throughout the whole lesson. And in my unit plan, I made sure on the daily lesson plans to try to follow as many of those 9 steps as I could to try to keep my kids engaged. And each day I tried to start out with a question that would get them interested in their learning. And the way I submitted those questions is through a website called Poll Everywhere. And what it is a website where a teacher can type in a question and then put it up on the board, and the kids can either text in their answer, or if they have a computer, they can get on a computer with internet access and type in their responses. My classroom, I'm lucky enough to have one that's an Emens class that has a ratio of 2 to 1, where there's 2 students to every 1 computer. In most classes, if I have smaller classes, then kids get a little luckier and some of them have their own computer. Well, I have planned this unit out so that each day they have a Poll Everywhere question to get them excited about what we're going to learn about, because if you tell them, middle schoolers, that they can take out their cell phone and type in an answer and it'll show up on the board, then they get pretty excited and that engages them. So I've planned all my lessons out to start out that way. I've also tried to include some activity to engage them in their background knowledge that they already have, so they feel like they can relate to the activity or whatever it is we're going to be doing. The lessons then go on to have a good engaging activity, and there's a lot of different websites I use, and I'll talk about those later. Lots of resources that the kids love to use because they're very interactive. And then Robert Gagney also does a good job about making sure you have a good, well-rounded lesson each time, and at the end you conclude with a way that the kids can retain their information. So I tried to do a blog post at the ending of nearly every lesson of mine, or each time we went to a new topic. I'm going to have the kids kind of make their own e-portfolio to where they blog about what they learned from that day, or perhaps the day before if we don't have time to finish the blog. That way they can go back when it comes time to the test and they can review everything that they've learned by reading back through their blog. It's their way of, I'll have requirements for what I want them to put on there. They might have to put a picture and explain what it means and put a definition of the words that they learn. But then they can also just kind of freely write on the topic. And that's where I'm hoping they really start to bridge those gaps and they bring everything together that they've learned, and they can just kind of journal it out. And then in the end, they'll have an e-portfolio on this blog. It'll keep track of everything they've done all year in science class. And I'm actually really looking forward to that this year. I've wanted to try it out for several years, but I've not found a way to make it work. So this unit plan has caused me to think through it all. And like I said, I'm really excited about how that'll turn out. I'm a very firm believer in cooperative learning, and I truly do believe that together everyone achieves more. When kids can talk about what they're learning and share their ideas, they can help each other out and they can take the learning much more in depth than if they were just doing an activity on their own. So many of my lessons in my unit plan do allow for cooperative learning. And there are times that I will let kids choose. Some of them like to work on their own. So if they come and tell me that, I want to work on my own on this project, then I'll try to pair their partner up with someone else and give them their space. But sometimes I do require all students to work together because I feel like it's good for them to get good experience working with other people, because in life that's what you get. You got to work with other people whether you like to or not, or whether you like them or not. And I think it's good for them to learn how to handle working with someone who they might not really care for, but they do need that practice at a young age. So there is a lot of cooperative learning throughout my lessons, and the Emens class opens that up to many, many possibilities. Since they have to share computers, they have to learn to work together and to get along and to take turns. And really, they do a good job with it, and I'm pretty proud of how my kids do on that part of their work. As I've already mentioned, in order to teach kids, you've got to keep them engaged. And one of the things I feel like I do really good in a lot of my lessons, and this unit plan as well, is to come up with some good engaging activities for the kids and some good websites. One year I was actually crowned the Brain Pop Queen at school because I love the Brain Pop website. And if you haven't checked it out, you've got to check it out. And you've got to get your district to buy that license. It does cost a little bit, but the uses are just endless. Brain Pop's awesome, so check that out sometime. Something else from this unit that I'm really excited about, last year was my first year to let my kids Skype, and some of them have never Skyped before. And I found two opportunities. One was for my 6th grade and the other was for my 5th grade with this same unit. They got to Skype with a NASA scientist about how NASA uses simple machines in their work. And the kids were so excited because they got to speak with a real rocket scientist. And first he started talking to them about some things that NASA does, and then at the end he let them open it up for questions. And at first I let them ask questions about simple machines, and then as we went on I let them open it up to just any random questions. And some of them want to be astronauts or do something with space stuff, and so they found it really engaging and really cool to be able to talk to someone in that field from somewhere around the world that wasn't in our classroom. And that's something that I have learned, is you got to open up your classroom to the rest of the world. You can't just keep those kids sheltered. Some of them never get out. They don't get trips. They don't go on vacations. So what you bring to them, the experiences that they get in your class, that might be the most exciting experience they've had with the rest of the world in their whole life, and maybe for many, many years to come until they're old enough to go on their own if they can ever afford it. So I do try to bring those activities to my kids, and I feel like I did a good job with that in this unit plan. I talked about the Blogger and the Poll Everywhere. Those are some websites that I'm using as well. Another activity is to let them make a presentation, but instead of doing a boring old PowerPoint presentation like we used to do when I was in school, there's a website called Prezi, and they get to make some fun presentations that way. And so I try to bring those opportunities to my kids as much as possible. Through this unit plan, I have many different assessments that I'm giving my kids, and some of them are the activities I talked about. At times, their blog posts will be assessed, and their presentations and some of those other activities I'll give them some points for. But another way that I've found that you can do assessments that is so easy, and the kids love it because they get to take the assessment on the computer and they feel like they're really high tech, and that's through Google Forms. You can create a quiz, a Google form, and send it to your kids. We have what's called Google Apps for Education, and our whole school is set up with a Google program, and every student has their own email address, and teachers have their own Google email address, and you can collaborate with kids through that. They can work on projects together. It's just, Google is awesome. And Google Forms, you can type up a quiz and then submit it to the kids. You can email it to them. They'll log on to their account, they'll take the quiz, it'll send back to you all electronically, and then I've even found a way that you can put a script into the spreadsheet that the data goes into, and it will grade it for you if it's a multiple choice test. So that's a good, quick way to give the kids a quiz and to see where their level of understanding is. So I've added that assessment, that type of assessment, into this unit plan a couple of different places. They'll take a pre-test, and they'll take a progress quiz and a simple machines quiz, and I will be able to let them know either that day or the next day immediately what their grades are if I do just multiple choice. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll give part of it as multiple choice, and then the other kids might be working on a paper copy that has some constructed response or short answer questions that they need to do. So I try to divide it up so that they're not getting all just multiple choice, so I can get a greater understanding of how much they know about a topic. So assessments have really evolved over the years, and I'm looking forward to all the different ways that we can be more effective with our assessment and give a lot more feedback and quicker feedback.
Come on, show 'em why you work. Make 'em go, as you should.